I endured a lifetime of unfair treatment because of my favored sibling. On my wedding day, I finally achieved my long-awaited retribution. My entire existence was overshadowed by my golden child sister, who even attempted to steal the spotlight by walking down the aisle at my wedding. Ultimately, I got my justice. My parents always preferred my sister, and their bias was blatant. If she pointed fingers at me, they'd take her word and discipline me harshly. But if I accused her, even with clear evidence, they'd give her a slap on the wrist and still find a way to reprimand me. My birthday celebrations always revolved around her favorite cake flavor, despite my parents knowing I despised it. They showered her with more gifts and took us to places she chose. Even when the occasion was supposed to be mine, my sister grew up entitled, using me as her emotional punching bag. Initially, she mostly disregarded me, but things escalated in our teenage years. She ended up friendless, and her behavior worsened. Did her peers move away or abandon her because of her cruelty? I'm unsure, since we were never close. My parents bragged about her accomplishments but never acknowledged her flaws, while they constantly mocked my shortcomings. I only realized she had no friends because we attended the same school, and I noticed her isolation. Meanwhile, I was fairly well liked. When my sister noticed this, she shifted from occasionally targeting me to relentlessly trying to undermine me. She began accusing me and my friends of various misdeeds. My parents barred me from socializing, claiming my friends were bad influences based on my sister's word or questioning why I wanted to leave the family. They'd say, "Why can't you be like your sister and value family time?" My extended family saved me from total isolation. Most lived nearby, and I bonded well with my cousins despite age gaps. At a family event, they invited me to an outing, but I sadly admitted I wasn't allowed to go. When they asked why, I bluntly explained it was because my sister had no friends, so I wasn't permitted any either. This reached the adults, who confronted my parents. I was scolded for lying and grounded for a month, but afterward they eased up slightly, making it worthwhile. My sister switched schools, likely because the family's knowledge of her social status was too humiliating, and my parents promptly accommodated her demand, despite the higher cost of the distant school. She made friends there, but never stopped targeting me. Her friends would visit and harass me, which my parents dismissed as playful teasing. I avoided inviting friends over because my parents were terrible hosts, or my sister would accuse them of theft, and my parents would believe her. I grew close to my cousins, though, as my parents never mistreated family. When I got my first boyfriend, I hesitated to bring him home, but my parents insisted. While we were briefly separated, he found me to report that my sister had flirted with him, wearing revealing clothes and badmouthing me while praising herself. He was annoyed and sought me out. Naturally, my sister told my parents a different story, claiming he flirted with her, but she refused out of loyalty to me. Guess who they believed? My boyfriend wasn't flawless, but I trusted him instantly, partly out of spite. As a teen enduring unfair treatment, I was resentful and despised my sister as much as she despised me regarding appearances. My parents were heavy and expressed love through food, giving my sister more treats. She was also heavy, while I remained slim, often denied snacks as punishment. Personality matters more than looks, but my sister's entitled attitude made her unappealing. Even my insecure teenage self didn't believe my boyfriend would pursue her. My parents banned me from dating such a terrible boy. I tried continuing the relationship secretly, but it fizzled out. With my next boyfriend, my sister again accused him of flirting with her after he rejected her advances, and my parents believed her. I highlighted the pattern, but they insisted I had poor judgment in choosing partners. That relationship also ended under the strain. Eventually, I gained a reputation in high school for casual makeouts while avoiding committed relationships. But thankfully, this never reached my sister or parents. My sister brought one boyfriend home, whom my parents paraded proudly, constantly comparing him to my supposed failures. When he vanished, they labeled him a deceitful jerk who fooled her. The unequal treatment persisted. She had more spending money and lenient curfews, while I was restricted. If I pointed this out, they'd claim it was because she was older, but when I reached her age, the rules didn't change. They justified it by citing her accusations against my friends and boyfriends as evidence of my poor choices. When my sister graduated, she was accepted into a mediocre college with no scholarship. Her grades were poor, celebrated only when she got a B, while my consistently good grades went unacknowledged. My parents made a huge fuss over her college acceptance and promised to cover all costs. I was relieved she'd be gone, but it didn't improve my life. She returned home often, and my belongings mysteriously went missing, or she'd create new problems to torment me. As my graduation approached, my mom informed me that since they were funding my sister's college, they couldn't afford mine. They suggested I work after high school and wait until my sister graduated to see if they could help. If I stayed home, I'd need to pay rent and bills. I mentioned student loans, but they insisted on controlling my choices, citing my bad judgment. I didn't argue, calmly agreeing. My mom seemed surprised, expecting a tantrum to justify denying me further, but I stayed composed. My dad tried the same, but I remained unemotional. After years of their neglect, I had no expectations of their support. I had been studying hard, knowing college was my escape. I worked tirelessly and earned a full scholarship to a decent college, not prestigious, but good enough. To prevent my sister from sabotaging me through my parents, I announced my achievement on social media simultaneously, thanking them publicly to trap them. Initially, they bragged about it, but after my sister's influence, they questioned my decision, hinting she was struggling in college and implying I'd fare worse. I stood firm, and they couldn't stop me. College transformed my life. I stayed in touch with my parents and visited occasionally, but their refusal to fund me gave me an excuse to limit contact. I avoided introducing boyfriends to them. My sister dropped out of college, unsurprisingly since no fanfare marked her graduation, and moved back home, paying no rent, thanks to my mom securing her a job. I met my husband during this time. Unlike my passive nature, he's bold and thrives on confronting wrongs. I'm a doormat who cries when angry, but he claps back instantly, relishing drama and revenge. He encouraged me to share this story. Though people were surprised by our match, I admired his strength, which complemented my weaknesses. We prioritized a dream European honeymoon over an elaborate wedding due to budget constraints. Since his family was scattered and mine was mostly local, we chose my hometown for the ceremony, leveraging work flexibility for planning. We sent engagement announcements and save-the-date cards. My parents demanded to meet my fiancé, and despite my reluctance, I agreed but ensured they'd never be alone with him. My husband, eager for confrontation, brought a hidden recorder to capture their behavior, anticipating my sister's advances. He returned ecstatic, claiming endless opportunities to outsmart them. He explained that my parents and sister proposed that she walk down the aisle first at my wedding, in a wedding dress, arguing it was unfair for the younger sibling to marry first. They wanted her to have the experience, complete with photos and a cake. My husband, initially stunned, played along, saying he'd discuss it with me and left before revealing his plan. The distance had softened my view of my parents, but their audacity shocked me. My husband's vengeful enthusiasm kept me grounded. We brainstormed ways to retaliate, from absurd to practical, consulting his level-headed brother, who cautioned against legally risky plans. We settled on pretending to agree while hiring security to block my sister's entry. My husband returned to my parents, claiming he saw no issue with their plan and would convince me, suggesting their financial contribution would guilt me into compliance. He emphasized my supposed distrustful nature, insisting all discussions remain verbal to avoid a paper trail. For months, we deceived them, letting them think they were manipulating me while we exploited their contributions. They insisted on controlling wedding details, like music and colors, but my husband persuaded them to yield to keep me compliant. We chose cheaper options for food, flowers, and photography, then had my sister demand the priciest alternatives, which my parents funded. For my dress, they pushed an unflattering one, but we resisted, citing verbal agreements to avoid evidence. My sister even suggested ruining my preferred dress, and my husband feigned agreement. Throughout, we ensured no written proof existed, reinforcing my controlling persona. My sister flirted with him, but he played conflicted to maintain the ruse. We had planned a simple courthouse wedding, but ended up with a lavish event, mostly funded by my parents, which we jokingly called compensation for emotional damages. My husband relished the deception more than the planning. On the wedding day, their plan was for my sister to arrive late, walk the aisle before me, and claim my dress was ruined. We countered by hiring discreet security, initially posing as a guest list checker, with a burly guard appearing later. We tipped him generously for confidentiality. As my sister approached, my dad signaled the ceremony's start, but security barred her, claiming she was at the wrong venue. My dad threatened police action, but the guard stood firm. A friend in on the plan escalated the chaos, stalling until my parents' scheme unraveled. I walked down the aisle with my dad, who was shocked to see me and left to answer my sister's call, mumbling an excuse. Our friend loudly questioned his absence, and I tearfully claimed he said it shouldn't be me, amplifying his shame. My husband's dad stepped in to escort me, and the ceremony proceeded amid whispers. My parents didn't return, and my husband briefly left to maintain his outraged facade. Later, we learned my sister in a wedding dress was denied entry, sparking a public confrontation. My parents and sister blamed my husband, but he denied everything, demanding proof they couldn't provide. The crowd berated them, and my sister's tantrum, sitting on the ground, screaming, sealed their humiliation. They were forced to leave, with my dad dragging her away. Guests avoided mentioning the drama to me, focusing on positivity, likely enhanced by the lavish food and drinks. We enjoyed the night and left for our honeymoon, rejecting my parents' offer to pay for tickets to avoid sabotage. They've since tried contacting me, but I've ignored calls, insisting on written communication. My sister sent unhinged messages, blaming me and accusing my husband of deceit and infidelity. He shared these, along with their threats, in our family group chat, portraying us as victims of their harassment. My family intervened, ensuring our peace. My husband jokingly regretted not getting another chance to confront my sister. Though I longed for a loving family at my wedding, thwarting their plan was deeply satisfying. Why did they treat me this way? I've wondered this forever. My best guess is that I was an unplanned child. My sister was a long-awaited miracle baby, but my quick arrival likely strained their finances, leading to resentment. Still, their actions were unjustifiable. We suspect my sister's jealousy over my marriage prompted their absurd proposal, expecting us to refuse, giving them an excuse to avoid funding my wedding. My husband's acceptance forced their hand, and we turned their scheme against them. Thank you for reading. Please subscribe and stay tuned for more compelling real-life stories.